There is a point where desire stops feeling like desire. It becomes surveillance. You are no longer simply drawn toward a possibility. You are watching it, measuring it, testing it for signs of movement. A delay becomes meaningful. A quiet season becomes suspicious. A small result begins to feel personal. You check for evidence, not because you are curious, but because some part of you wants reassurance that life is still working. For a moment, it feels like control, but underneath, something else is happening. The desire has started carrying too much meaning. It no longer says, I would love this. It says, I need this to happen so I can finally feel safe, certain, chosen, successful, free, or on time. And this is where the whole energy changes, because now you are not simply moving toward a desire. You are asking the desire to resolve an inner emergency. This can happen with anything: money, love, success, healing, recognition, a new beginning, a business, a creative project, a breakthrough, a completely different life. At first, the desire feels alive. It opens something. It gives you direction. It makes the future feel larger. But slowly, the desire becomes loaded. The opportunity becomes proof that life is finally opening. The money becomes proof that you are safe. The recognition becomes proof that your voice matters. The breakthrough becomes proof that the past did not win. The new beginning becomes proof that you are not stuck. And once a desire carries that much emotional weight, it stops being a vision. It becomes pressure. This is why wanting can start to feel painful. Not because desire is wrong. Desire is natural. Desire is movement. Desire is the soul leaning toward expansion. The problem begins when desire becomes responsible for your safety, identity, or future. When the thing you want is no longer simply something beautiful you are moving toward, but something you believe must arrive before you can relax, before you can trust, before you can feel worthy, before you can breathe, before you can stop feeling behind. That is the moment desire turns into need. And need is desire with an alarm attached. It says, I must know now. I must see proof now. Because if I do not, I will have to feel the uncertainty underneath. This is why need becomes exhausting. You are not only carrying the desire, you are carrying the imagined consequence of not receiving it. If this does not happen, what will it mean? That you were wrong? That you are not supported? That nothing is changing? That you are behind? That you are not capable? That the future you wanted is slipping away? That you are still trapped in the same old life? This is the hidden pressure beneath many desires. We think we are attached to the thing itself, but often we are attached to the meaning we have placed on it. A result becomes more than feedback. It becomes a referendum on your voice. A delay becomes more than timing. It becomes evidence in your mind that nothing is moving. A difficult day becomes more than a difficult day. It becomes fear that you have gone backwards. A closed door becomes more than a closed door. It becomes a story about whether life is supporting you. And once a desire becomes symbolic in this way, it is no longer free to arrive naturally. It is being summoned into a courtroom. It has to defend your worth. It has to calm your nervous system. It has to prove that the future is still open. It has to explain why the past happened. It has to promise that everything will finally be okay. No wonder the desire feels heavy. No wonder it feels delayed. No wonder the more you focus on it, the more tense you become. The desire itself was never the problem. The problem was that you made it responsible for solving an inner emergency. That is the real subject of this video. Not desire, emergency. Because the moment a desire becomes responsible for calming an old fear, it stops being a vision. It becomes a demand. And demands change the way you see reality. You stop participating in life and start investigating it. You look for signs, you monitor delays, you interpret silence, you measure results. You read meaning into every small movement. This is what surveillance really is. Surveillance is what happens when trust leaves the body. You are still looking at the future, but you are no longer looking with imagination. You are looking with suspicion. You are asking reality to prove that you are safe before you allow yourself to live. And this is where the work of Vadim Zeland and Neville Goddard becomes useful. They use different language, but they both point toward the same hidden mechanism. Zeland, in reality transurfing, speaks about excess importance. When something becomes too important, it begins to disturb your balance. The desire becomes charged. Your attention tightens around it. You begin to fight the current reflection instead of calmly choosing another direction. In Zeland's language, reality is like a mirror. If you keep reacting intensely to what the mirror is showing now, you keep feeding the same reflection. You look at the delay. You react to the delay. You make the delay important. You emotionally confirm the delay. Then the delay becomes the center of your inner world. This is the trap. You say you are choosing a new track, but your attention is still glued to the old reflection. You say you want abundance, but your nervous system keeps rehearsing lack. You say you want success, but your body treats every slow result as danger. You say you want change, but your attention keeps asking the old reality for permission to leave. This is why Zeland's idea of reducing importance is so powerful. It does not mean pretending the desire does not matter. It means restoring proportion. It means taking the desire out of the position of God. The desire can matter. It can inspire you. It can call you forward. But it can't become the ruler of your nervous system. It can't become the judge of your future. It can't become the only door through which life is allowed to reach you. Need stands in front of one locked door and calls it destiny. Detachment steps back and sees the corridor. That image is important because need does not only create pressure, it narrows reality. It takes a wide field of possibilities and reduces it to one form, one outcome, one timeline, one number, one route, one response, one exact version of how life must unfold. Then it says, if it does not happen this way, nothing is working. But life may be working in a way your fear cannot recognize. The problem is that fear has poor vision. It only sees what might go wrong. It only trusts what it can control. It only considers the path it has already imagined. Detachment does not make you careless. It expands your perception. It gives you back the corridor. And once you see the corridor, your actions change. You stop placing all your energy against one door. You notice the other openings. You listen differently. You move differently. You stop forcing misaligned situations to become sacred. You stop calling anxiety intuition. You stop giving spiritual meaning to emotional chaos. That alone can change everything. Neville Goddard gives us the second layer. For Neville, the central issue is not only what you want, it is the state from which you want it. In Feeling is the Secret, Neville places enormous importance on feeling. But by feeling, he does not simply mean emotion in the ordinary sense. He means inner acceptance. The atmosphere of identity, the state you keep returning to, the version of yourself you are inwardly consenting to be. In The Power of Awareness, Neville's work keeps circling around one idea. Consciousness is the foundation. The world reflects the state we occupy. This is where manifestation is often misunderstood. People assume desire itself is the creative act. But desire can come from many places. It can come from inspiration. It can come from woundedness. It can come from envy. It can come from fear. It can come from genuine alignment. It can also come from a desperate attempt to escape the present self. Neville would ask a deeper question. Are you imagining from fulfillment or from absence? Are you choosing or are you begging? Are you entering the feeling of the wish fulfilled or are you rehearsing the drama of not having it? This is the subtle trap. You may think you are focused on what you want, but emotionally you may be rehearsing what it means not to have it. You imagine success, but your body is practicing failure. You imagine abundance, but your nervous system is negotiating with scarcity. You imagine freedom, but your identity still belongs to limitation. You imagine a new life, but every time the outside world is slow to change, you return to the old state. This is why living in the end is not pretending. It is inner relocation. You move your identity out of waiting and into fulfillment before the external scene has fully caught up. You stop standing inwardly outside the desire, asking whether life will allow you to have it. You begin inhabiting the state of the person for whom the desire is no longer an emergency. That does not mean you deny reality. It means you stop making current reality the author of your identity. This is a subtle but powerful difference. Denial says, this is not happening. Detachment says, this is happening, but it is not the totality of what is possible. This is the mature position. You can look at the current picture clearly and still not surrender your entire future to it. You can admit that something has not arrived yet without turning delay into destiny. You can feel disappointment without constructing a whole identity from it. You can want deeply without making the wanting violent. This is the balance, and it is rare. Most people swing between obsession and resignation. They grip until they are exhausted, then call the exhaustion surrender. They chase until they feel humiliated, then call the withdrawal detachment. But true detachment is neither chasing nor collapsing. It is a third state, a state of centered desire. Desire with breath in it. Desire with self-respect. Desire that can move, wait, choose, adapt, and receive. This is the version of desire that can create without turning life into a battlefield. And this is why the title matters. Once you stop needing it, reality starts moving. Because the old need was not just an emotion, it was a structure. It shaped your perception, it shaped your timing, it shaped your choices, it shaped what you tolerated, it shaped what you ignored, it shaped how you interpreted the present. When that structure dissolves, life reorganizes around a different center. You stop standing beneath the desire, you stand beside it. You stop treating it like a judge. You relate to it as a possibility. And from that position, you are finally able to ask better questions. Not, how do I force this to happen? But what state am I practicing? What meaning have I attached to this outcome? Where am I turning uncertainty into danger? What would I do today if I were not trying to be rescued by the future? What action belongs to the version of me who is already becoming free? These questions open movement. They bring the desire back into proportion. They make room for intelligence. And most importantly, they return your center to you, because that is what need takes from you. It takes your center and places it outside yourself. Detachment is the act of reclaiming that center before the world gives you permission. You stop waiting for the outer event to authorize your inner state. You stop saying, when it happens, I will become peaceful. When the money arrives, I will become safe. When success comes, I will become real. When the breakthrough happens, I will finally trust life. When the new beginning arrives, I will stop feeling behind. You begin reversing the order. I become steadier now, and I act from that steadiness. I create safety, and I build from clarity. I respect myself, and I let success become expression rather than rescue. I stop using the future as medication for the present. This is not pretending, it is leadership, inner leadership. The ability to stop handing your emotional state to every passing event. And once you practice this, reality does not feel the same. Even before anything external changes, you have changed the way you stand inside your life. That alone is powerful. You are no longer at the mercy of one result. You are no longer trapped at one door. You are no longer hypnotized by one silence. You are no longer building your identity from evidence gathered in fear. Something in you becomes available to the wider field. And from that place, life can surprise you. The situation may respond differently. The opportunity may come through another route. The money may arrive from a place you had not considered. The project may grow through a path you did not predict. The breakthrough may look different from the version you were gripping, or the old desire may lose its intensity because it no longer carries the burden of your unfinished fear. Any of these outcomes can be movement, because movement is not always the arrival of what you demanded. Sometimes movement is the release of what demanded you. This is especially important with prosperity. Prosperity is not only about money, it is about your capacity to receive, your ability to feel supported, your ability to let life be generous without immediately bracing for loss. Many people desire abundance, but the body still treats receiving as unfamiliar. A number in a bank account becomes more than information. It becomes a prediction. A bill becomes more than a bill. It becomes a threat. A slow month becomes more than a slow month. It becomes evidence that nothing is working. From that state, it is difficult to make clean decisions. You may undercharge because rejection feels dangerous. You may overwork because rest feels irresponsible. You may avoid looking at the truth because the truth activates shame. You may chase quick solutions because your nervous system wants immediate relief. Money should inform you. It should not hypnotize you. A number is data. But when the nervous system is activated, a number becomes destiny. This is where detachment becomes practical. It does not mean acting as if money is irrelevant. It means relating to money as a tool rather than a verdict. You can respect it, plan with it, organize it, ask for it, receive it, protect it, but you do not turn it into the final authority over your future. This is grounded, reduced importance. Money matters, but it is not allowed to become the master of your state. The same principle applies to success. A person may say they want success, but underneath, success may mean, now I can stop feeling invisible. Now I can prove that I was right. Now I can finally respect myself. Now my life will look meaningful. Now the years of uncertainty will make sense. There is nothing wrong with wanting achievement. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be seen. There is nothing wrong with wanting your work to matter. But if success becomes a cure for shame, every result becomes unstable. A good response lifts you. A disappointing response collapses you. A project does not perform well, and suddenly it is not just a project. It becomes a referendum on your ability, your timing, your relevance, your right to keep creating. The work itself is no longer free. It has to repair your identity. And that is too much pressure for any project to carry. A more powerful approach is to create from identity rather than inadequacy. You write because something in you wants form. You build the business because your skill has value. You improve because mastery deserves devotion. You show up because the future requires participation, not panic. Results still matter. Feedback matters. But healing is rarely a straight line. A difficult day is not always a regression. Sometimes it is the nervous system releasing an old layer. Sometimes it is simply fatigue. Sometimes it is a trigger passing through. Sometimes it is the body asking for care, not condemnation. When you need healing to happen quickly, every difficult moment feels like failure. But when the emergency leaves, you can respond with more intelligence. You stop asking every feeling to prove whether you are healed. You stop turning every wave into a verdict. You let the process breathe. This is detachment applied to healing, not giving up, not becoming passive, not accepting pain as destiny, but no longer turning every emotional fluctuation into proof that nothing is changing. And this is where many people misunderstand detachment. They think detachment means doing nothing. They think it means caring less. They think it means becoming emotionally flat, pretending the desire does not matter, or forcing themselves to be above it. But that is not detachment. That is often suppression, or disappointment dressed as wisdom. Real detachment is much more alive than that. It does not remove desire. It removes the emergency from desire. It allows you to want something deeply without making it responsible for regulating your entire inner world. You can still want the new life. You can still want the breakthrough. You can still want the business to grow. You can still want the money, the healing, the recognition, the relationship, the freedom, but the desire no longer has permission to become your master. It no longer decides whether you are safe today. It no longer decides whether you are worthy today. It no longer decides whether your life has meaning today. That is the difference. False detachment is when the behavior stops, but the surveillance continues. You say you trust the process, but you keep scanning reality for proof that the process is working. You say you have let go, but inwardly you are still negotiating with the outcome. You say you are detached, but your nervous system is still waiting for the result to calm it down. This is not detachment. It is control with softer language. It is still the old emergency, only now it is hiding behind spiritual language. True detachment is different. It does not perform calm. It removes authority from the outcome. The outcome can still matter, but it no longer owns your state. You can still desire. You can still act. You can still care. You can still prepare. You can still move, but you are not using the desire as oxygen. Detachment is not the absence of desire. It is the absence of emergency. That line matters. The desire may still be strong. It may still call you forward. It may still shape your choices. It may still ask you to grow. but it is no longer attached to the alarm system. The body is no longer saying, if this does not happen, I am not safe. The mind is no longer saying, if this does not arrive, nothing is working. The self is no longer saying, if this outcome fails, I fail. This is when desire becomes clean. It becomes a direction instead of a demand. It becomes a choice instead of a contract. It becomes something you can move toward, rather than something you use to escape yourself. And when desire becomes clean, your actions change. You no longer act from the panic of being incomplete. You act from the dignity of participation. You do the work because the work matters. You make the offer because your skill has value. You allow support because you are no longer proving you can survive without it. You receive because receiving no longer feels like danger. You rest because rest no longer feels like falling behind. You keep going because the path matters, not because every step must immediately prove that you are safe. This is a very different way to live. It is softer but stronger, calmer but more powerful, less dramatic but more effective, because you are no longer spending your life force on monitoring. You are no longer burning energy trying to force the future to reassure you. You are no longer using your attention to keep the old fear alive. And this is where reality begins to have more room. Not because you have stopped caring, but because the desire is no longer being suffocated by pressure. It has space around it. Timing has space. Life has space. Your intuition has space. The old emergency has stopped taking up the whole room. So how do you practice this? How do you stop needing something without killing the desire? To find the emergency beneath the desire, ask one uncomfortable question. Take one thing you want. Do not choose something vague. Choose something specific. Then complete this sentence. If this never happens, I am afraid it means. Do not stop at the first answer. The first answer is usually the mind protecting itself. Go deeper. If this money does not arrive, I am afraid it means. If this project does not work, I am afraid it means. If this opportunity does not open, I am afraid it means. If this new life does not appear, I am afraid it means. If this healing does not happen quickly, I am afraid it means. Keep writing until the emotional truth appears. It might be, I am not safe. I am too late. I am invisible. I am not supported. I have failed. I am stuck. I am not capable. I will never be free. That sentence reveals the real attachment. The desire is not the grip. The fear beneath it is. Then, write a second sentence. Even before this arrives, I can give myself safety, structure, respect, attention, rest, devotion, movement, honesty, care, direction. This is where detachment begins, not by forcing yourself not to want, but by no longer outsourcing your emotional survival to the outcome. You begin giving yourself the state you were waiting for reality to deliver. This is Neville's teaching in practical form. You enter the inner condition first. You stop living as the person who is waiting to be saved. You stop standing outside the fulfilled state, asking life whether you are allowed to enter. You begin to move your identity into the version of you who is no longer defined by the absence. Then, apply Zeland's teaching. Reduce the excessive importance. You might say, this is meaningful, but it is not my whole life. This is one path, not the entire field. This is one opportunity, not the final door. This is one result, not a verdict. This is one timeline, not the measure of my destiny. These statements are not designed to make you care less. They are designed to make you less imprisoned. Because when you are less imprisoned, you choose better. You stop forcing what is not responding. You stop confusing uncertainty with rejection. You stop treating the current picture as final reality. You stop living as though the mirror has more power than the one standing before it. Zeland often uses the idea of the mirror to describe reality. If you dislike the reflection, shouting at the mirror will not change it. The reflection follows the one in front of it. Neville's work points to something similar. The world reflects the state. So the work is not to wrestle with the reflection. The work is to become someone different before it. This is not abstract. It can happen in ordinary ways. You stop checking the thing that keeps activating lack. You stop building your day around emotional evidence. You stop refreshing the old story. You take a grounded action. You clean your space, you write the page, you send the proposal, you go outside, you organize the money, you make the call. You return to the work. You make a decision that belongs to the version of you who is not waiting for rescue. These actions may look small, but they are declarations of state. They say, I am no longer organizing my life around absence. I am no longer making one outcome my center. I am no longer feeding the emergency. And as this continues, the inner atmosphere changes. Your mind becomes less frantic. Your body starts to believe it can survive uncertainty. Your intuition becomes easier to hear because fear is no longer shouting over it. You stop mistaking pressure for guidance. You stop treating delay as humiliation. You stop making the future responsible for healing every old wound. This is when action becomes more powerful, because now your actions are no longer emotional bribes. You are not creating the work to prove you exist. You are not applying for the role as if one answer decides your destiny. You are not building wealth from the belief that one number must finally calm you down. You are not pursuing healing as if every difficult day means you are failing. You are participating. There is dignity in participation. It is active but not desperate. It is open but not naive. It is devoted but not enslaved. That is the state from which reality becomes more responsive. Not because the world suddenly becomes magical in a childish sense, but because your perception, choices, and behavior become coherent. You notice what you previously missed. You stop pushing away what you secretly wanted. You stop clinging to what drains you. You make cleaner decisions. You allow space for timing. You become less fascinated by chaos. This is a form of reality moving. The path becomes less rigid because you are less rigid. The field becomes wider because your attention is no longer trapped in one point. You are no longer using your energy to hold the old pattern in place. That final point matters. Sometimes we think we are waiting for reality to change, but secretly we are maintaining the same reality through attention, identity, and emotional repetition. We keep telling the same story, expecting the same disappointment, preparing for the same wound. Then we wonder why the new reality cannot fully enter. The old state is still being practiced. Neville would say you must stop consenting inwardly to the old identity. Zeland would say you must stop feeding the current reflection with excess importance. Both teachings require a withdrawal of energy from the old configuration. You are not denying what is present. You are refusing to make it ultimate. That is the subtle art, to see what is here without becoming owned by it, to want what is next without turning the present into an enemy, to choose a new reality without making the old one your God. This may be the most important line in the whole script. Reality moves when the desire stops being an emergency, because emergencies create tunnel vision. Emergencies make the body brace. Emergencies shorten your attention. Emergencies make you reach for immediate relief instead of deeper alignment. But when the emergency state dissolves, you gain access to a different intelligence. You can see patterns. You can recognize alignment. You can leave what keeps draining you. You can receive what previously felt unfamiliar. You can let the future form without attacking the present. This is the state Zeland and Neville are pointing toward in different ways. Reduced importance, fulfilled state, freedom from the old reflection, inner assumption, a wider corridor, a less frightened relationship with desire. So if there is something in your life that has become heavy, begin there. Do not shame the desire. Do not force yourself not to want it. Do not perform detachment as another tactic to get it faster. Instead, examine the emergency. Ask, what has this desire become responsible for? What do I believe it will finally solve? What feeling have I postponed until it arrives? What part of me is using this outcome as proof? That is where the work is. Not in killing the dream, in removing the fear wrapped around it. Then, choose one small act that returns your center. One act. Write the page, organize the money, take the walk, make the offer, clean the room, move your body. Make a decision that is not built from panic. Every time you do this, you teach the body. I can desire and still remain here. I can want and still be safe. I can move toward the future without abandoning the present. I can let life unfold without turning uncertainty into a threat. This is how need begins to loosen. Through repeated returns. You return from the object to the self, from panic to state, from surveillance to participation, from control to coherence. And as you do, the desire changes. It becomes less sharp, less punishing, less fused with fear. You may still want it, but now there is breath around it, space, dignity, perspective. The clenched hand opens, and something can finally land. That something may be the desire itself. It may be a better form of it. It may be a new path. It may be peace. It may be the realization that you were never waiting for the thing. You were waiting for the self you thought the thing would give you. And perhaps that self does not have to wait. Perhaps it can begin now, before the proof, before the result, before the outer world catches up. This is the essence of Neville's state. This is the essence of Zeland's reduced importance. Become inwardly free enough that the desire no longer dominates you. Then move toward it from clarity. Let reality respond to that. Because when you stop needing it, you are no longer trying to extract life from a single outcome. You are no longer using desire as a weapon against the present. You are no longer rehearsing absence while calling it focus. You are no longer placing your center inside something that has not arrived. And that is when the path becomes responsive again. Not always instantly, not always in the way the frightened self demanded, but something changes. The air changes. Your choices change. Your attention changes. Your standards change. Your tolerance for false doors changes. Your ability to receive changes. And reality, which once felt like a wall, begins to feel more like a field. A field with more than one route, more than one answer, more than one timing, more than one way to reach you. So the next time desire begins to feel like desperation, pause. Notice the shift. Desire has become surveillance. The dream has become a demand. The outcome has become a courtroom. That is the moment to return. Return to proportion, return to state, return to the corridor. Return to the part of you that can want deeply without handing your life away. Because the desire is allowed to matter. It is allowed to be beautiful. It is allowed to call you forward. But it is not allowed to become your master. Once you understand that, detachment stops feeling like loss. It becomes power. The power to want without shrinking, to choose without begging, to act without bargaining, to wait without becoming the waiting, to receive without fear. And perhaps this is why reality starts moving when you stop needing it. Because you are no longer pulling from an emergency. You are standing in a different state. Thank you for watching. See you soon.